Hello?
Hello, Jim.
Yes,
This is Jens Blecker from InfokriegerNews.com. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm great. You don't need
Fine.
to worry.
I'm really glad to get this interview with you. I'm very pleased that you have promised me a face-to-face interview next time you're visiting Europe. I will lead the interview by Roman, my friend and owner of my partner website wirtschaftsfacts.com, for a fluent conversation. Is that okay?
Oh, okay.
I give him. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
And how long will we talk?
So long you give us time.
Okay, fine,
Thank.
fine.
Hi, Jim. That's Roman.
Hello. Hello,
Hi.
Roman.
It's very good to have you on the phone. Okay, you're staying in London right now.
Yes.
First question, what's your opinion about the current situation the Brits and the City of London have to cope with? Will they find a way out of their self-created financial mess or not?
Well, they are recovering now, partly because governments around the world, including the UK government, are spending huge amounts of money. So yes, things are better now than they were a year or so ago. Will it get back to where it was in 2007? No, I'm afraid not. I'm afraid that the City of London is in decline, and it will continue to decline for years. I mean, there will be rallies, of course, but no, I'm not optimistic at all.
What does that mean for the people, for the normal people in the street, for the Brits? Unemployment numbers, and so on and so on. What does it mean for them?
Well, if I'm right, and that the UK is now in a period of a fairly long decline for maybe decades, then the standard of living is going to continue to decline. You know, the standard of living for the average American, for instance, has been declining for at least a couple of decades, and that's the same as the case for the average British citizen. And when a country goes into decline, the standard of living declines for a long period of time. Just as when a country is on the rise, the standard of living rises for nearly everybody. I mean, if you go to China now, the standard of living has been rising for nearly everybody for 30 years, or Korea, or so many other countries. So you always have some countries rising and some declining.
Right, so that means Europe goes down and Asia goes up?
Well, some countries in Europe are certainly going down, and many in Asia are certainly going up.
Right. Let's come to the pound sterling. I mean, the pound got hammered recently. Is the currency doomed to fail, or do you expect it to be close to a turnaround again?
Well, as I said before, the City of London is certainly in decline, at least compared to where it was back in 2007, and that's been a great source of income for the British. Likewise, the North Sea has been a great source of income for them for 25 years. That is drying up now, or at least the production is declining. So two major sources of income for the UK are in decline. I don't see anything that can replace those two big sources of income over the next couple of decades.
That was my next question, because the British government says, okay, to debase the pound sterling means that the country is able to export more in the future, but the last published figures, they showed that the pound lost 30% of its value within the last 2 years, but still exports suffered enormously and fell by another 6 to 7% in the same period. Does the UK still have anything they can sell to the world? I mean, or is their sector of production completely destroyed?
Well, they obviously have some things to sell because they're selling things to the world. But as you point out, their exports are declining, and a lot of the British economy, as I said, has been the financial services and oil, and both of those are in what I think is permanent decline. If you look at most of the jobs created in the UK over the past decade or so, they were mainly in finance, in government, and in construction. And as you know, finance is in decline. Construction, they had a big housing boom, or maybe even bubble. That's over, and government employment doesn't do much for your competitiveness to try to sell goods to other nations. In fact, it usually decreases your international competitiveness. So, no, I don't see much to pick the UK up as far as its currency or its balance of trade is concerned.
Right. Let's come to the debt to GDP ratio. It's at 449% in Great Britain. Is the situation, or is the country doomed to declare bankruptcy in the future? I mean, these are heavy numbers, isn't it?
These are extremely heavy numbers, and they're dangerous numbers. And throughout history, when countries have gotten into this kind of position, they usually go through some crises and some semi-crises, and I suspect the UK will too. Will they go bankrupt? Or, well, not anytime soon, I don't think, ultimately, but ultimately it's a long time. It takes a long, long time to ruin a country, if you will, or to for a country to really sort of destroy itself. It can be done. Zimbabwe's in the process of doing it, or has done it in the last year or two, or 3 or 4 years, as we know. It can be done, but it usually takes a while.
Okay.
Actually cause serious, serious problems. You see what happened to Iceland. You see what happened to Latvia. Many countries have gotten into Argentina a few years ago. It can happen, and it will probably happen to the UK eventually.
Right, that's my next question. Because when do markets finally tell the Bank of England and the politicians that enough is enough and start dumping the British gilts? I mean, of course, there you can go and print money down the road and throw it out of the helicopter, but one day it must be the day of reckoning. Or am I wrong? I don't think so.
No, you're exactly right, and it's happened to every country in history that's gotten into this kind of situation. I don't see anything on the horizon which is going to turn the UK situation around. The politicians who are running for office in the next election, neither one of them have any plan to solve the situation. And in fact, I don't think there is a solution short of some pretty draconian measures, which no party is going to do in the UK. They couldn't get elected if they said they would. So eventually, the market will cause things to go wrong, just as it did in Iceland, Latvia, Argentina, other countries. When that will happen, I wish I was smart enough to know. I could get rich if I knew that.
Yeah, right. You could tell me. But let's come to the European debt crisis. I mean, Greece is on the brink of failure, and the people and markets seem to lose their faith now with the euro currency. Recently, you told Bloomberg it's best to let Greece go bankrupt. How would that affect other countries such as Portugal, Italy, Spain, or Ireland? Wouldn't we see some sort of domino effect, not only in Europe but also in the US?
Well, if you saw Greece go bankrupt, it would certainly shock and scare other politicians, and maybe they would do something too. Right now, politicians in most parts of the world, including the countries you mentioned, think that they can, everything is going to be okay, and they can continue to muddle through, and then they will pull one rabbit out of a hat after another, and they keep pushing things along for a while. But it's just making the overall situation much, much, much worse. In my view, the thing to do would be to let Greece go bankrupt. Then all the other politicians would be shocked. They would start taking serious, sound measures instead of just continuing the same old way. And then it would be good for the euro, it would be good for Greece, it would be good for Europe, it would be good for a lot of people if people realize that they have to maintain a sound economy and a sound currency. Right now, nobody thinks they have to. Well, Iceland does, or Latvia does, a few people like that. But most politicians think, oh, well, we can continue as we are because we won't have to pay the price.
Right. How would a bankrupt state such as Greece, what kind of effects would it have on the derivatives markets? Yeah, I mean, they are very intransparent, the OTC derivative markets. Wouldn't that be a comparable situation to the failure of Lehman Brothers or AIG? Wouldn't a lot of people holding the Greek bonds have to be paid out on insurance claims or other things? What do you think?
Well, of course, some people would make money and some people would lose money. By the way, I have no position in Greece, neither long nor short, so it wouldn't affect me at all. And I do own the euro. I'm long the euro. So whatever happens in Greece is not going to have much effect on me, if any effect on me. Yes, obviously, whenever you have a major shift, somebody makes money and somebody loses money. That's the way the world is. That's the way markets are.
Yeah, of course.
But it was not the market participants who ran up gigantic debts in Greece. It was not the market people who got Greece debts of a deficit of 12% of its gross national product. It was the Greeks and the Greek politicians. So it's hard to blame this on other people. They did it, and now the market is trying to take advantage of it.